What up, guys? It's Sheepai back with another deck profile. This time it's going to be ninjas, which is a deck I wasn't sure if I want to do a deck profile on it yet, or like in general. I'm a big fan of the ninja deck. Like, always had the cards and always tried to make them work, like pendulum ninjas and the stuff before, but it didn't work. Like, let's be honest. And this is like the first time ninjas can be a good deck or like a competitive deck. And I still didn't want to make a deck profile on it because I thought it was like really self-explanatory on like how to build it and it's really easy. But then I scrolled through the internet and like found out that like a lot of people weren't sure. I think like it can be a lot improved on. I think there's a lot to be improved, and but also at the same time like not that much interchangeable. But we will get into the deck profile and you will see what I mean. Okay, so starting off with the ninjas, we're starting with triple Hanzo, triple Mitsu, and 3 Tabari. Those are the most important ninjas, and you basically need 3 of everything. I would love to like cut down the Tabaris because like drawing it is fine, but it's not the best card in the world. You just need 3 because you're just cycling through all your ninjas, especially with duplication, and duplication is way too good of a card to just cut it. So you still need the 3 Tabari and you can play with it, but like personally in my mind I would just like to run 3 and then 2s and 1-offs or just 1-offs, but you need 3 Tabari and it's just okay to draw, and in combination with Hanzo you can do some pretty cool things, but in general I just open Hanzo and 4 non-engine. But getting into the other ninjas, which we're only running 1 of, are Green Ninja, Kagero, Baku, and Geo. And the thing about these is you only need 1. Like, those are your utility cards, and you only really get to see them like 1 every second game. Like, it's not mandatory to summon him, neither are these. And what I've seen is a lot of people running 2 Geo and 1 Baku, but what you need to think about is like Geo and Baku are not good to draw. Like, these 2 are, or like are fine to draw, but Geo and Baku in general are pieces you want to summon from the deck. What I've seen is like 2 and 1. So you're just adding another prick to make sure you're having him in the deck. But the thing you should consider is your deck can still play even if you draw the Geo. And like adding a prick to counter pricking is like, well, yes, you will always have a Geo in the deck, and that's cool and all, but you will also draw Geo more often, which means like you have 1 less card in hand. Like, people argue with you can summon it with Tabari, you can fuse with it from hand, and all that good stuff, and that's cool, but that should never be like a prioritized option. It should always be an option if you draw the Geo and your deck can still play, and that's fine. But like, you're having a 12% chance of drawing it in 40, so why not keep it that way instead of like drawing it? I think it's 22%, not sure right now, but it's at least a fifth of all your games. And why risk it when you can always go for the Baku as an alternative and just play 1? Like, really, that makes the deck so much better, and you will lose way less game. Getting into the holy trinity of spells, we're playing 1 Iron Dagger, 1 Instant Fusion, 1 Rhoda. Those cards are insane, and in combination even more insane. Like, Iron Dagger, perfect card, makes a grind game like unbelievably strong, especially with Baku in combination. But in general, this card is just straight up insane, like outs everything, gives you a chance against control decks, and in general, even against combo, it's pretty cool. So Instant Fusion, like, yes, we're not summoning Kid Carlos, but it's still at least half as good, and that's fine. Like, you're getting a banish and an extender, so what more do you want? And we're also playing Rhoda. If you have it, I would recommend at least running 2 triple tactic thrust in the side deck, depending on how much room you have. I still think 3 Dark Ruler are mandatory for spread, so it's getting a little tight in the side deck, but I would also consider running triple tactics in the main deck, but, and I think there's a big but to it, this card does not provide anything going first, and like the deck is good, but it's not like instant winning going first. So you still need all your utility cards, and I just want to minimize the cards that are dead going first. Like for example, draw Baku or either Geo plus Thrust, so you're just not getting anywhere. Like it's cool in turn 3, but probably you won't get to the turn 3. So I'm not playing Thrust in the main deck, but in the side deck, and I would recommend to do it as well for you. So those 3 spells are just insane, and we're also running Triple of the Book. Like, this card is amazing. Do not cut down to 2, even though it is not as good going first. Like, that's the thing I've said. You need as much cards life to be as possible. The same for like control decks. Like, think of it like a mid-range control deck, but more of a mid-range aspect, just way faster at OTK. So keeping as many cards live in the deck, but you still need 3 of these because this card is insane going second, and also just ensures if you can stop your opponent, you can OTK them right away. So you don't have to play like a long grind game with them where your deck may suffer from it, and also just keeps the follow-up up. And having follow-up with the deck is really important because most of your follow-up is on the field, so you just have to be aware of if there are like 2 board breakers in hand, then you're probably out of follow-up, and this card really helps with it. So I would not run less than 3. Then we're doing the traps first before we get to all the utility cards. We're playing 1 duplication and 3 dancing leaves. I think this ratio is perfect. At the really first, where I was playing this deck, I was playing only 1-1 because of the typical mindset where traps are really bad in the format and traps are in general really bad. But then I realized I couldn't do as much going second, and just like kind of breaking the board, but not really. Just weaken the board and then set your trap. It's really good. In general, this trap is insane, and I would love to play more of this, but then I would have too many traps, and also you really only resolve this once. Like, then you're out of ninjas in the deck. You're cycling through them like pretty fast, so only 1 of it is fine, and then 3 of this. Like, always preferred this over this, but it's just a nice option to have if you already can get to the dancing leaves. And for the last utility spots, we're playing 3 Pot of Prosperity, and with it 3 Book of Moon. It could also be Book of Lunar Eclipse, which is something I'm torn about. Like, I really like Book of Moon and I still think it's good, and I'm not sure about Book of Eclipse, like Lunar Eclipse. Like, don't play Book of Eclipse, like at least for this deck, because I think it's really valuable to book the monster of your opponent in your turn, or like in your opponent's turn, and still have booked instead of flip face up. So I always prefer Book of Moon, even though Ash really hurts for the deck, and Book of Eclipse can really bait the Ash. But in general, I like Book of Moon. A lot of books. In general, I like the Book of Moon more. And Book of Lunar Eclipse, the one that double books, which is not played right now or not heavily played. I think it's really cool in the deck because it can stop the Sprite combo like normal Beaver, which Book of Moon can't, and that's just a lot of utility. And you really have the cards to discard, like most of the time. Like, discarding 1 card doesn't really hurt the deck. And if it's a Baku, it's fine. If it's a Duo, it's fine. Like, you're not really missing out on something, so I'm considering to play the Lunar Eclipse, but in general, Book of Moon is just like a tiny edge better, but that's the thing I'm not sure about. Like, that's where you can vary. And Prosperity is just insane. And this is like the core of the deck. The cards I've shown you are 29. With that, you can play 11 non-engine slots of your choice. Like, I would not consider cutting the books or the prosp, even if the meta changes. Like, even if Kashtira is not a deck anymore, I think you still need to have some book just to make your dancing leaves even better. So the last cards are Hand Traps and Fenrir. We're playing 2 Fenrir, which I think is a good card, just to keep your board a little stronger and giving you more follow-up. Like, if you're getting into a simplified game, which is Ninja's all about, Fenrir is just like the best card ever. Like, in a simplified game, this card just slaps. So you want to get to it as fast as possible. I was thinking about playing 3 for the Lunar Eclipse, so you have just more discards. And the rest of these are hand traps, like 3 Ash, 3 Mourner, and 3 Veiler. And you may notice I don't play Imperm or like more books. This is because the deck is really weak to evenly matched. Like, this is the biggest weakness of the deck, and evenly matched is a card which will always be played. I just want to minimize the amount of getting punished for it. Like, for example, if you play 6 books and Impermanence, you can like set 3 cards, which one of it is your Dancing Leaves, your Duplication, or other stuff, and then you're getting evenly matched, which you cannot negate. I just wouldn't recommend playing it. Like, I'd rather play into tactics more and play Mono and Veiler than just getting hard rolled by evenly matched. So you still play into tactics anyway, like you don't change a thing about it. And then I can have like 2 or 3 hand traps or just 1 hand trap in the hand and only 2 set, and after evenly I can leave my Maizen face up, so way more of a fan of it. And I think that's something you should always consider with the deck. And now we're getting into the extra deck with 3 Maizen and 3 Yagura Maru, which are like the only really relevant spots in the deck. There are just other utility cards you can play, but you really need those 6, and you can sometimes banish 1 Yagura Maru with Prosperity and it won't hurt. But in general, you're focusing on like keeping those cards, and everything else is pretty much not relevant, or like just in corner cases. And also the 2 Scizor, which are pretty good. Just keep you in the game and just get you to cycle through your ninjutsu cards. Then we're playing 1 Armor Ninja. And after those 9 slots, you can play whatever you want. I've seen people playing Gigantic Sprite, which I was also considering, but currently I'm not on because there are just other slots in the deck I rather play, but you could also cut the like the Giant Moth, which is cool in theory, and it comes up, but like I feel like every time it comes up, you could also solve the situation with something else. So maybe it's just me, but I'm keeping it in the deck for now because it's still in general really good, and I just prefer the other slots just a little more. 1 Cross Sheep, and now the Charmers. 1 Dark, 1 Area, and 1 Asa. Because Mitsu is a water, you get Tumbari as earth and Hanzo as dark, and also just Asa and dark come up a lot, especially also just stealing an opponent's Fenrir and then using the effect of Fenrir to just add yourself a Fenrir, keeping you in the game for a longer time. Like, area isn't that relevant or just doesn't come up as often, but I just like to keep it in the deck to get into Borisot a lot easier, because Borisot is the 15th slot in the deck, and I feel like this card is really cool, but also not mandatory at the same time. Like, for example, if I go for Prosperity, and if I don't know the matchup, I usually take out 1, 2, 3, 4, like going first. I feel like the second Scizor doesn't come up as often, and 6, and if you really feel about it, you can keep the Borisot in and cut a Scizor, and then you still have this extra deck. And this is the relevant part of the extra deck, so you're not missing out on anything. Like, it's still fine, and just having the option to steal Fenrir, you won't miss the space in the extra deck. You can always pot, and it's always going to be just fine. Like, I don't think you're going to lose a game because of you potting the wrong extra deck monsters. But in general, I hope you liked the deck. It was a quick one, but I feel like there's not that many things about the deck to say, because it's relatively easy to build. It's a little harder to play, but in general, not that hard of a deck. Like, maybe it's because I'm just getting used to the deck, but I think a lot of people would agree that the deck is really simple to play, and it's just about picking the right non-engine, picking the right side deck, which is really important, and also just having a bit of an understanding what your opponent is going to do. Like, you need to know your opponent's deck, and you need to know what they're going to do, or like what they're trying to do. But if you're a good player in general, it's like really easy to play and it's a lot of fun. Like as mentioned, not competitively speaking the strongest deck in the whole game, but in general, really fun and really cool deck to play. So, and also dirt cheap. Like I would recommend picking it up and just having a lot of fun with. And that's the deck profile, and I hope you had some fun because I love the deck and I'm having fun with it. So, gonna see you around with the next deck profile.